Hi everyone, and welcome to this online session where I will share some of my experiences from working with test for 10 years. My name is Anna Hoff. I live in Sweden. I was born in Stockholm, but I was raised in a tiny village in Småland called Väckelsång. I currently live in Malmö. When I was younger, I dreamt about being a pilot, flying all over the world on secret missions. Then I wanted to become an architect and make beautiful buildings. And finally, I wanted to become a movie director. And I've actually studied for that. However, during the studies, I found myself pretty much a permanent resident of the computer lab. So I soon applied for the software engineering program at the University of Ronneby. I wanted to become a hacker. But I discovered that it was not like in the movies. So just a programmer would be fine. Then I discovered that, programming wasn't really for me, so I chose the project manager track. And in 2002, I got my master's degree. But by 2002, the IT business was not that nice. The bubble had bursted. So, by an accident, I became a tester. And this is my first day as a tester. A young, nice girl who liked very much to stand in front of a camera or up on a stage. So it was only a matter of time before I ended up on the EuroSTAR stage together with my little sister to do the Supertester session in 2009 and 2010. But this session is about what I learned during these years in the testing business. So my first case I'd like to call the successful Scrum team. I had the pleasure of being a part of a very good Scrum team. We managed to fit testing into the teamwork very seamlessly. I've been into Scrum teams before, and though we called ourselves Scrum teams, we haven't fully implemented all the parts. Yes, we did morning meetings and we did have some kind of Scrum board that was occasionally updated. But I think that this time we really truly worked as a Scrum team. So what did we do that was so very good? How did we become so successful? First of all, we had a very good sprint roadmap. This sprint roadmap was very simple. It was one single table on a wiki page, and it included all the requirements work, the development work, and the test work. If you look at the Scrum process, you are supposed to fit all those three parts into one single sprint. But that didn't seem to work very well for us, so the requirements work was done one sprint ahead, and the development parts were done in the sprint behind the requirement sprint, and the test work was done in the sprint after that. But as the team contained team members that were good at requirements, good at development, and good at testing, we didn't wait for the complete change to be completed. So for sprint number 2, the requirements work started for what the developers would work on in sprint 3. So it was like a tiny waterfall, so to speak, that was working its way down in the table. In the testing column, we could very easily include all the testing tasks that we were going to do within the sprint. It was very easy to put in tasks that needed an external environment that we need to book ahead. So it was very easy to us to plan ahead for several sprints to see when are we going to need this external environment, when are we going to need some cross-team testing with other Scrum teams. So it was very easy to see what came ahead, and also we could very easily see when we had a big testing load. So when do we need help from other teams or other team members? We also was very important on having all tasks on the Scrum board. We just mixed requirement tasks. We had testing tasks and dev tasks, and it was very important for us to have any tiny task on the board, so we could really see where do we spend our time. If we had a meeting, a regular meeting or so, that was a task on the board. If we had to just update and document, that task was on the board. So we were very thorough in putting every task on the board. We had loads of them, but we still managed to handle all of them. Another successful thing was that we were all located in the same place. When I've been around on several assignments, it's not always that requirements, developers and testers are located in the same spot. Sometimes you are located in the same open area but in different corners, or you are located on different floors because you want to draw synergies from other people that work with similar tasks that you are working on. But I think that putting us all in basically the same cubicle really made us a solid team. It was very easy to overhear what everyone was saying, and knowledge sharing was very easy. Everyone in the team became visible to everyone. We wasn't just a name on the Scrum board or that strange person that turns up for every morning meeting. So we were very visible to each other. So the communication between the team members were very short, very instant, and everyone could pitch in wherever work was needed. And that was our fourth success key, I think, that everyone was really into the team. If we were falling behind on tasks or test tasks, which happened, the whole team decided on, okay, for this sprint everyone will focus on the test tasks. And then you say, but developers can test. Okay, but there must be something they can do. They're intelligent beings too. So I wrote a template because we were falling behind on creating test cases in this case. I wrote a template and I explained to everyone, okay, this is what we need to do, these are the gaps we have, and this is how I usually do it. So I got the whole team to start writing test cases. So the only work that I had to do was to review them and here and there correct them. Or if I can see that, well, the thinking of this set of test cases is completely wrong or not as I expected it to be, then it's easy for me to go to that developer and talk to him and say, I was thinking like this. Do you think you can change it? And he was like, of course, now I understand what you mean, and change it. So it's very easy when we all work together. And at one time, I overheard that the developers, they had no time to measure the test coverage of the unit testing. So I said, okay, but I could do it for you. I don't know how to measure it, but I'm sure you can tell me. And in 10 minutes they had told me. And I didn't have to understand exactly everything that I did, but I just needed to have my step-by-step and a way to interpret the numbers. So I provided the test coverage measures for them on a regular basis. this sharing of tasks and knowledge really helped us all to grow. I know that they have become way more aware of quality after this working together. And another key to this commitment to the team is something that I've experienced in other places, but the opposite. It's like when we do planning poker and we have all these tasks on the board. We have the requirements task, we have the developer task and the test task. So a developer task comes up and I as a tester takes part of the planning poker and I say, I don't know. How can I estimate the tasks for you? I have no idea what they're about. I don't understand it. It's a lot of numbers and letters everywhere. I don't understand it. So I have two options. I could just use my I don't know card, but that card will be very well used and I will be useless. Or I could do what we testers do best. I could ask questions. So I started asking questions like, how difficult is it? How many people do you think you need to involve? Are you sure you don't need to talk to anyone? Are you sure you don't need any extra checking up or anything? And very often these questions get the developers thinking of things that they wouldn't have thought of otherwise. So they're, yeah, you're right, I need to go check with that person. Okay, will it just be you going there or do you need to bring someone else? It would be good if he could come too. So you're two persons doing this. Then we have to double the time. And being a tester, I'm kind of pessimistic when it comes to planning because, well, being at the end of the chain, really, I know how bad it will be when you start cutting times, cutting from my time because things took longer time than estimated. So I usually pull a card from the deck with a slightly higher number. And I don't know how many times I've been able, in the retrospective, to walk up to them and say, I told you so. So after just a few sprints, well, 2 sprints I think it was, whenever I drew a higher card, they said, you know, I think you're right. So our planning became better and better because I also became better at asking questions. And after a while, I could estimate developer tasks. I could estimate requirements tasks because there are patterns. Some tasks are similar and some tasks are very different. And I think everyone was a lot happier when I participated instead of just saying, hey, that's not for me. And it was the opposite around. When we came to testing tasks, the developers didn't say, we don't know anything about testing. Because I didn't know anything about development, but I did my best anyway. So they did their best. And they challenged me when I said, this will only take an hour. Say, but are you sure? And that got me thinking, because sometimes you get a little bit blind when judging your own stuff. So I think this participating and really committing to what we did as a team was one of the big success keys, and I think something that everyone should really, really strive for, because I think it made our work so much easier. So my next case I call the mess up. As you might guess from the title of this case, it didn't go very well. So I want to share why it didn't go very well and how to avoid it or how to repair the damage. The situation was like this. It was a big company and I came into the project in a very early stage. Some parts were in the startup and some parts had already started. The project was is separated into several teams. Some people in mostly the management part were already very stressed and very busy. So they really didn't have time for me. I was just thrown in there with a very minimal introduction. It's like, here's your computer, here's some great documents, I gotta run. Okay, not the best start, but it was the start I was given, so I had to work from that. There were no testers hired for the project. They were planned for, and there were interviews going on, and in the meantime we could just borrow a few from another project. There were constant changes to the teams. I think during the time that I was there, which was not a very long time, I don't think there were any original member of any of the teams when I left. So it was constant changes. It was a very, very highly technical system. And I must admit, I'm not the most technical person in the world, so it was a little bit hard for me to really get into what is it that we're going to do. And also, this was a very multicultural company, so there were many people, well, working in different ways, needing different stuff. And my role was to coordinate the testing between all of those sub-projects. I think it was 5 of them for this project. So what did I do when I got there and got this very minimal introduction? To get a hold of what are we going to do, and what are my resources, what are my limitations, what are everyone's expecting from me, I started by attending every meeting I could manage to get invited to. Some days I didn't do anything but just run into meetings, and I didn't know the purpose of the meeting. I didn't have a goal for me attending the meeting. I just thought, okay, I need information. Where am I going to get it? How am I going to get a picture of this? Maybe not the best way to start. Also, I thought of myself as less important than everyone else. I just accepted that no one had time for me. No one from the management, not the project managers, not my boss, not even the developers, basically the testers weren't in place, and those we borrowed from other projects didn't know more about the project than I did. So I just accepted that and directed my efforts to somewhere else. And I haven't worked that much with people from different countries, some, but not to this extent and not as close as this. So I basically just thought that I am the norm. So everything I did to provide for the testers that eventually came into the project, I based on my needs. What would I need as a tester? And I tried to provide that. I didn't recognize that their needs were somewhat different than mine. And I was so stressed, so I didn't listen to them. I just went from my needs and full speed ahead. I just thought, I gotta get into this, I'm gonna go working fast, the project is running, we need to start and we need to get going. So I just kept going and didn't stop for anything. And I thought, I'll manage. I don't need to ask for help, I'll manage. No problems. So what happened? Well, I never really understood what I was supposed to do. And no one understood why I was in their meetings. And I found myself completely lost and on my own in the organization. I didn't belong anywhere. I'm not entirely sure who were above me or who were below me. And I think the testers was very, very frustrated with me. I did not listen to them. I didn't understand their needs. All I did was produce a lot of stuff that in the end I don't think anyone but me needed. So it was, in the end, a lot of it was just thrown away. I had this utopia about everything being like in the textbook, and I wanted to implement this, I wanted to do that, I wanted to do that, but I didn't realize that that was not necessary for what we were going to do. Or, yeah, that's a very good idea, but in reality, come on. I think that was some lack of experience in that area. So in the end, I called my boss for a chat and I told her of my concerns. And I had come to the point where I could see this is not good. I'm not performing as good as I want to do, and I think everyone is suffering from it. To my surprise, my boss didn't understand me and told me that, well, I think you're doing a very good job. I haven't seen anything. But on the other hand, my boss had never time for me, so how could my bad performance be noticed? But we agreed that we need a change. So what we did, we set up short meetings with Q&A, but the situation became very odd and didn't really help. So what I did that really helped was to listen to the team. I started slowing down and sat down and I listened to the team. And by the team, I mean the test team. When we came to this point, the testers had been hired, they had been located so we could see each other face to face, and we could really talk about what are your needs, what do you want from me. And they had a lot better insight into the separate projects than I had, because they were working closer to the developers, they were really understanding what they were supposed to do. So I decided to start working with the team instead of just running alone. I stopped, I listened to them, and I asked them for help. And I said, I don't know what I'm doing, but you seem to do very good, and I know you need stuff from me. Tell me what you need, and I will do my best to fix this. So we set up some workshops, and we had a lot of subjects to discuss. And I asked them all to come up with subjects so they get to choose the subjects that they think we needed to work on. So we started that way, and we produced some documents that they felt they needed as a support in their work. We just had general discussions about how we're going to work, what are the problems, how can we solve them, what will the future bring, what do we think we have to deal with now. So I started to acknowledge our differences, and I really saw that what I thought we needed was not the same as they actually needed. And I've learned a lot about these cultural differences, and I finally understood that it was me who was the alien. I was the only one in that team from Sweden. And I didn't see that until, well, basically someone hit me in the face and said, hey, we know who's the alien in this room, and it ain't me. It is you. I said, yeah, you're actually right. But I didn't see that until we actually stopped and gave things a thought. So I decided to trust the team. My team worked very well without me doing basically anything. So I put my trust in that they know what to do. If they need something, they will tell me. Or, well, maybe they won't come and tell me, but we have more of an open discussion than we had before. So things started to get better when I finally acknowledged the situation, that, well, this is bad, we need to turn around. We turned it around, but in the end I realized that now for this to work, very, very much in this way that I wanted it to work, because I wanted it to work so well. We need to replace me. So I actually asked to be replaced by a more senior person for the sake of the project, for the sake of the team. And I think they were all a little bit sad to see me go, because I really liked them. But I think in the end they were a lot more happy with the new solution. I hope they were, at least. So, I messed up. I did my best to fix it, and I think they learned something, and I definitely learned a lot. I learned the importance of knowing your purpose. If I had understood my role and my responsibilities from the beginning, a lot of these problems might not have happened. But now I know that this is one key issue. I have to know why I'm there, what I'm supposed to do. If I don't know, it doesn't help just running full speed ahead. Also, I need to learn to demand attention. I just accepted that my boss didn't have time for me. That was the key person who could have told me why I was there, because she hired me. So she must have had a purpose of hiring me, and she must have had some need for me, and that was something that I couldn't figure out and couldn't meet. Also, I needed to know the purpose of what are we as a team, as a project, as a company doing, and why are we doing it? What are we heading for? What's the goal and the vision of this project? Not knowing these parts, I was basically just fumbling in the dark. I might have ended up doing the right thing, but in this case, I'm not so sure. So for any new assignment that I end up in, I really need to know the goal and the vision, the purpose. Also, it's very important to know your team. If they're below you, above you, beside you, doesn't matter. If you know your team, you know the strength, you know the weaknesses, you know who to trust, you know who needs support, that would be so much easier. And I think putting the trust in people when you want to do things perfect is hard. Because you always find stuff that, oh, can I really trust this person to do this because I want it to be so good? No, I'm going to do it myself. But you can't do everything, and you can't control everyone to do everything exactly as you would have done it. Because then no one will do anything. Everyone will just sit around and wait for you to tell them what to do. No one will take initiative. So trust your team, know your team, and don't forget to ask for help. Asking for help is not a weakness. I would say it's a strength. If you cannot ask for help, you're in deep water. You need to ask for help. You need to identify who to ask for help. It might be a very different person for what you need help with. It could be someone not even working in the company. Someone who's done the same job as you are doing. Someone who can just give you a little nudge in the right direction. So I wish so much that I had asked for help, that I had demanded attention, and I had known my purpose, the project's purpose, the goal and the visions, and trusted my team from the start. So this was my mess up. Now for the third case, I'm calling it the importance of timing. I'm a very impatient person, so when I see something new, something fun, I want to try it out at once, and I don't want to have to think about timing, about decisions, plans and stuff. I want to try it out, see how it goes, and take decisions from there. So this is about implementation and timing is a very important thing. I'm going to tell you about 4 things here. First of all, I want to tell you about a very successful implementation that I've experienced. It was a long time ago. I had worked as a tester for a few years. I worked with manual scripted testing and thought, well, okay, this is it. Okay, testing is okay. Nothing more to it. But then my test manager came and said, today we're going to try something new. I said, wow, new? What's that? We're going to try exploratory testing. When they told me about this change in our way of working, I was, wow, that was so cool. I get to use my brain. I don't think I've used it for several years. So this was very, very good for me. I really liked the change. But not everyone appreciated it. I think about half of the team was delighted and half of the team was terrified. I think they were very comfortable with having the test cases. It was a very structured way of working, so they really preferred doing that. This implementation was very thoroughly prepared and very well managed. They started out by introducing it to us. We got to do some testing, like trying it out. They helped us, they guided us. Some of us went to a one-day presentation with James Bach, and well, they guided us through it. But one key is also that they listened to the team. So that half of the team that liked it got to do exploratory for whatever they want. We wanted, because I was definitely part of them. The other half of the team that really didn't fancy this way of working that much got to do the scripted testing. So everyone was kind of happy because we needed both ways of testing. So when I was asked to implement exploratory testing a few years later at another company, I was very delighted and encouraged because my experience was very good from this implementation. But as you can see from the bullet here, it didn't go so well. We were a very committed and enthusiastic team of 3 people, but our responsibilities and authorities of implementing this was not that well anchored within the organization. So we did a lot of interviews with project managers, test leads, testers, to see what they would expect from exploratory testing, how exploratory testing would fit into their organizations. But on several occasions we were met with disbelief. Did we really have the authority to do this? Where did we come from? Who were we? Where were we in the organization? We were just testers. What authority do we have to question them about their way of working? So the decision to change to exploratory testing was not anchored within the organization. And this was a very big change because it was a very big company with a lot of testers and test departments. So I think the change was scary. And this company has also experienced a lot of change over the years, constant changes. So I think they were a little bit fed up with changes. But we had prepared plans how to work, or what process to use, what we needed for the success, and we made trade-off with adjustments to the process and to the tools. But in the end, it was all put on hold because I think the timing was not right. We weren't authorized to do this. People were questioning us, and the decision was not anchored. A few years later, they implemented exploratory testing, and I think it went very well from what I heard, because that was after I left the company. So, the way that I like to do implementation, of course I want it to be successful, but I want to do instant implementation. And by that I mean basically trial and error. And this is, I think, is a good way if you don't change too often. You just find something. You don't make solid plans, because they will not be solid plans. There is no thing as bulletproof plans. So just take a dive, try it out, and evaluate it. Don't stand around waiting. Nah, not today. Maybe we need to check it out. Maybe we need to do this, and postpone it until never. Try it out, see if it's good. Then you can decide if you want to keep it or not. And that is what I want to talk about, unimplementation, because I think unimplementation is just as important as implementation. What do I mean? I mean, if you implement something, a use of a tool, a use of a process, and you discover that you no longer update it. I think this applies mostly to a tool or a document. If you no longer update it, throw it away. It's time to unimplement it. If you have not used it for a week or longer, unimplement it. If you actually forgot about it, unimplement it. If you tend to skip it because it's hindering you in your work, unimplement it. Why are you keeping it? If no one can tell you why you need it, unimplement it. Clean up your processes, clean up your documents, clean out your tools, and keep the ones that are actually working and the ones you actually need. So, when I think about implementation and the experiences I have from implementations, I have found some things that I think is very important. First of all, keep an open mind. If you see change as very evil, it will be very hard for you to accept it. So try to keep an open mind. Okay, this might not be what I expected, but okay, someone thinks it's a good thing. Let's try it out. Let's keep an open mind. And remember that if you have implemented something and you find out, okay, I was right, this wasn't the best thing, it's okay to throw it away. Don't keep stuff just because, oh, we spent this much on it, we spent this much time, we thought we needed it, we argumented for us needing it. Acknowledge that, okay, we were wrong, throw it away. Don't suffer the burden of having stuff that you don't need. And as I said before, timing. I think the implementation of exploratory testing at this big organization, it wasn't timed right because they have experienced so many changes. They were not ready for yet another change. But a few years later, things might have calmed down. They were easier to accept the change. And if you're going to do a change to a bigger organization, you need the authority to the change. If you don't have the authority in yourself, make sure that the organization around you gives you the authority to perform this change. And you should also be aware how the change is perceived. For a lot of people, change is evil, is something uncertain. You know what you have, but you don't know what you're getting. So you have to take it very carefully and explain to people, this is why we need to change, this is how it's going to be, or hopefully be, and how can we make the change easier for you. I think it was a EuroSTAR session that I went to about change. I think it was a keynote. I don't remember the speaker. It was a lady. She was very good, and she talked about change and how change is perceived. And she was great. She was spot on. So you have to Google it. And when you do change, don't use force. If people really don't want to change, and there's no way they can see the benefit of the change, don't force it. Listen to them, and if you cannot agree on some kind of way of working, you need to back off the change if it's not that important. And if you're thinking about changing something, process, tools, whatever, document, way of working, and you're not sure, should we go, not go, do we need to plan, just go for it. Give it a try. I was at this assignment and we needed a tool for collecting test results. And we were discussing a lot of tools. So I said, oh, we need to evaluate this and we need to try this out. We need to evaluate this and maybe we should build a tool of our own. And while we were discussing this, and we didn't really have time to really dig into it, time was just passing. So there was no change. So instead, we decided on a very easy solution that we knew would be a temporary solution, but we did something. We didn't say, oh, but this is just a short-term solution, we cannot do it. We need something. Go for the easiest one, go with that, and see how long we can last with this until we have time to do the bigger change. And we discovered that was basically a whole year passed before we managed the long-term change. And if you see something really fun, try it out. You don't need to go big scale. Go small scale. Do it for yourself. Do a change for yourself. In the way you work. You don't need to change the whole team. Change for you. And when you decide on change or not, consider value, value, and value. Is there a value for the change for the team, for you, for the company? Value doesn't have to be money. Value doesn't have to be time. It could be satisfaction. It could be pride in your work, excitement about your work, and everything will produce value. And if your change doesn't have any value, it's a burden. It takes extra time. It costs extra money. Throw it away. So the conclusion. If you're going to do Scrum, do it full scale. Don't just settle for we're doing the morning meetings, so we are a Scrum team. We're working in sprints, so we are a Scrum team. Go full scale. Use the backlog, prioritize, use Planning Poker. Planning Poker is awesome. Put everything on the Scrum board. Requirements work, implementation work, test works, and don't settle for the traditional tasks. Put every task in there. Then you will get a bigger overview of what you're actually working on and what might steal time from other tasks on the board. And while you're doing it, be a team for real. If testing needs help, get the whole team to help. If requirements need help or just need a review or whatever, get the rest of the team to help. Anyone in the team can have input. And if someone in the team fails, or if not someone, or if a task of the team fails, it's the team that fails, not that person. So make sure that the team works together for real. And everyone has input to everything. Some in more in detail, and some can contribute by just asking questions. If you mess things up, it's not the end of the world. I've been there. I survived. What you can do is that you do your best and you learn from your mistakes. I learned a lot from my mistakes, especially the one that I told you about, the mess up. There are a lot of things that I did back then that I will probably not do in the future. And if you find yourself in the same situation and you find yourself very lost, get help. And I don't mean get a psychiatrist. I mean ask someone around you. I'm stuck. Can you help me? I need to move forward. I'm lost. I don't know what I'm doing. And also I talked about implementation. And implement change with care. Care about the people that you are implementing the change for. Listen to them. Some might appreciate it and some might not. Make sure you have the authority to make the change so that the change will be received in a better way. And if you hesitate about implementing something, have faith and just make that jump. Try it out. Don't have to be big scale. Make the change small. And while you're doing all of these things, don't forget to have fun. So, that's all, folks. This was my presentation about some of the things that I've learned while working as a tester. So, thank you all.